Welcome back to Middle Earth, guys. For those of you maybe haven't watched my past couple of videos, I came back to Lord of the Rings Online just before they dropped instances. I thought, maybe I'll hang out with some mates. And all of a sudden, my plans of doing some easy content got interrupted by guys going, hey, listen, let's go for like world first, server first, that sort of a thing in the new raid, because that is releasing with the instance cluster. Now, before this video, I had not even stepped into the raid on tier 1. I went in completely blind, hadn't played Heal Minstrel the entire time I was playing now. Haven't played Heal Minstrel in a raid since Mordor, the Abyss. So, crazy stuff. Just went into this completely blind, but Minstrel was my main at the time. So, also don't think, Lord of the Rings Online is this easy game, some guy who doesn't even play can do it. Like, I know what's going on in the game to a degree, but I'm not absolute god tier. I know there are players that are ridiculously good, but yeah, with good mates and a good raid group, this is what's up. Now also I need to preference this by saying, even though in the previous video I said, we're going for world first, we kind of knew that it wasn't going to be the case, because even though the raid released at like 12 p.m. or 2 p.m. or whatever it was, we were only setting our raid time for 8 p.m. because we are Crickhollow casual, so we are quite casual about our raiding.
Really? Man of your talents? It's a peaceful life.
So by the time we had logged in, we had seen that there were a couple of raid groups that had already cleared the raid on tier 3. So that kind of took it already off the plate. But also getting a respectable world clear position would have been pretty nice. So we set to work on the raid. So like I said before, I hadn't actually been in the raid before, so for me it was a bit of a learning curve, especially the fight mechanics. I like the fact that this was more of a tank heal pressure kind of raid rather than just a complete DPS race on every single boss. Now, there are obviously DPS mechanics and components where if you have low DPS, you are going to struggle tremendously. But it wasn't some sort of hard enrage or soft enrage time where if you don't have a lot of DPS, you are going to wipe, except maybe for the last boss. Like in the first boss fight, where basically you're baiting out SIs by using AoE stuns. So once their SI is worn off, you can crowd control certain adds to hold them down and get them to not cast their abilities. I really enjoyed that mechanic, put a little bit of pressure on support. The healers got a lot of pressure at different points in the fight, especially with the eyes and things going off. So this was kind of my reality check, because like I said before in my previous video, all I had healed so far was one T3 3-man before we went into this. And I even struggled in that because I didn't realize how bad Minstrel was at the moment, especially with its power cost. With that being said, I had a really great heal partner, really great tanks and support, and we managed to get through with a 1 puller. Now obviously I did let a couple of guys die when they were getting the eyes, and that's something I'm probably going to have to work on because I wasn't really paying attention to my add-on. We had written a script to obviously warn us when someone was getting the eye and who it was, but I wasn't really looking. So all of a sudden I would just notice someone dying, and especially as a Minstrel, if you're not preemptively putting up some hot and preemptive bubble, it's very hard to keep up a non-tank from just falling through their own arse. Then we went into boss 2, and boss 2 was a lot of fun. Again, it was pretty much a massive group like boss 1, and I noticed that with the trash pulls, everything was large groups and a lot of mechanics within them. Certain things had random aggro, some had frontal, some had knockbacks. It was a lot of mechanics per thing, and that's kind of seemed to be the entire theme of this entire raid, was lots of ads, lots of tank pressure, and lots for people to keep aware of. Support's having to make sure that everything is debuffed and buffed, and just an incredible task of keeping track of who's got what debuffs and when do you need to rotate and refresh, which is really good. I think that's a good way to do a raid in general. But by the time we got to boss 2, I pretty much got in my groove and we one-shot boss 2 very, very easily. I think it was probably our most smoothest pull. The RK healer I was healing with JB was on form, absolutely brilliant, and it gave me a lot of time to figure out how I was fitting into the raid as the Minstrel healer. For those of you who don't know, Blue Minstrel is an Anthem support healer. So what that means is you're producing quite a lot of anthems that are basically buffing your team, reducing incoming damage, and also increasing outgoing damage to some degree. You've got bubbles, but not as much as the RK, so sometimes preemptively pushing them out can mitigate quite a lot of damage on your fellowship. Where Minstrels are obviously struggling is their cross-raid healing, so you don't really heal the other fellowship as much, other than maybe with your cord and your cord heart, and then obviously just focused heals, which is quite tough to do. But what makes Minstrel incredibly, amazingly strong is your call to greatness. Being able to reset Oathbreakers just allows you to have a lot more flexibility, and especially now that DPS Minstrel is so strong, having 2 or 3 call to greatnesses in a raid is ridiculously good. And then obviously having things like your Inspire Fellows and your Song of the Soliloquy, it allows you to increase mitigations on certain targets. That is super good, especially for things like Guard Tank, who have really high mitigations in general. Being able to push them up another like 3% or so makes them so much more tankier, and that allows your tanks to be able to take a lot more damage. So we had set a pretty good time. I think there was another group that had killed the first 2 bosses before us, which meant we were kind of sitting, I think, in World 7 position. They hadn't killed boss 3 yet, and we were on our way there. Now we were on our way to boss 3, and by the time we got to boss 3, which is the final boss of the raid, we had done everything in less than an hour. So we were feeling very good about our chances. We had a tactic and everything that the guys had worked out on Bull Roar, and we were like, okay, cool, we just got to go and execute this plan. And immediately as we started the raid, we realized that the tactic that they had worked on was different now. Because it had been patched out, certain of the mechanics and certain mechanics changed, we couldn't use that tactic, which meant we had to do some old-fashioned progging. Now this is where a lot of the guys got frustrated and things like that, because, you know, they're obviously really good, you know, players and stuff, and they obviously expect like quite a high degree. But this is the part I probably actually enjoyed the most. Not wiping over and over again, because that sounds a bit degrading, but trying to figure out how to progress and how to actually do it and come up with our own tactic. Now, obviously, we didn't have some sort of guide or anything to go on. We didn't ask anyone else what to do. We literally were like, what's this ad doing? Why is that happening? Why are we taking damage here? You know, what can we do differently? How can we deal with this? Should we kill the ads? Should we kite them? Should we do this, that? And we just worked through systematically, pull after pull, we just worked through what we could do. Now, unfortunately, we did hit the part where we had been progging for about 3 hours, and the sun was coming up. I needed to crack on. Some of the other guys obviously needed to crack on, and we had to call the raid. And it was disheartening because we were right there. We had a couple of pulls where we got to the 25% mark, the last phase, and we just couldn't seem to kind of get our bearings of how we were going to handle all of that damage, all of those ads come in, and the mechanics around that. So I had gotten about 40 minutes of sleep the previous night because I was way too excited. I slept from about, I think, like 8 p.m. to like 20 to 9. And then I basically was like, what can I do to prepare? Can I make some food? Can I do this? So I came down and I was preparing for the raid. Literally raided from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. and then pretty much had to crack on for work. But when I got to work, my mate messaged me and he's like, we go again tonight. And I was like, bruh, first of all, I'm so damn tired. My eyes are bloodshot red. Almost fell asleep at the wheel on the way to work kind of thing. Yes, I'm tired, man. And then he was like, we're going to get it tonight. We figured out how to do it. Please, you've got to do it. You know, we don't want to like change up the roster, things like that. And I thought, you know, I came here to get, you know, server first, basically. I knew world first was a bit of a long shot because I know there are really ridiculous raid groups, you know, guys that are literally paid to win in the whole way and things like that. And, you know, I knew that wasn't really a case, but server first, I haven't done this for so long. I haven't been in a raid group and contributed and been there and progressed with this one raid group and just done it in so long, and I missed that. I missed it so much. So I made a plan to do it. I, you know, took like a little afternoon nap, tried to get a bit of sleep beforehand, but again, couldn't sleep just due to the extreme excitement, and we went in. And this time around, we had a really good tactic. Our first pull we did, we got so close. We basically dealt with a lot of the ads, but all of a sudden there was this frontal AoE splash damage that we just hadn't accounted for. So that just wiped us at, I think, about 12% left or something like this. And a little bit disheartening for your first pull to be so good, but also just not get it. But then we went again. And on our second pull of the night, we pulled off lightning in a bottle. It was ridiculously good. Although even there was a lot of damage towards the last 5% of the boss's health that we hadn't accounted for. And that almost wiped us. It was super touch and go right at the end. And we came up with a strategy afterwards of how to deal with it. But on the night, at that moment, we just didn't know where this damage was coming from. And it shocked us. But we managed to pull out the win. And we ended up with world number 6 and server first. And I'm damn happy with that. Damn proud of the guys. You know, we could have maybe pulled it off the night before, but to be honest, the 5 raid groups that are already there had got it before we even logged in on the first night. So we were pretty much the next guild/raid group to get it done. And yeah, really stoked and happy with the guys. I'll put a link in the description below to the pulls that I recorded from the Minstrel point of view. So if you are a new Minstrel, blue Minstrel, and you want to learn kind of a little bit of this and that. Please don't pay attention to me because I'm pretty crap at it. But I've put my footage there anyway, you can have a look at it. Unfortunately for boss 3, because we packed it so many times and recorded and stopped and recorded and stopped, I thought to myself, I'm only going to record if I think we're going to get it. And so I only kind of got the last 25% of the pull, which is maybe not the greatest content, but I'll put pretty much those. And then I'll also put a link in the description below to a couple of the other guys that recorded. I know the one guy's got the Lawmaster point of view for brakes, and he's a ridiculously good Lawmaster. Highly recommend checking out his. And some of the other guys, I'm not sure who all's going to have their footage, but I'll put all of those down there so you can see pretty much every single pull full. Again guys, thank you so much for watching the video. I know maybe this Lord of the Rings Online isn't the content that everybody enjoys usually watching on my channel, but it has been so much fun to play something like this again. If you did enjoy watching, please give it a like and a subscribe. It really helps the channel grow and keeps me motivated into just digging in and making content. If you didn't enjoy it, like I said, anyway, for watching, I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but have a great one. Cheers.